Okay, we're going to attempt to replace the motor on this Trane powered humidifier, which is actually an April air humidifier. This is the model number of the humidifier. I contacted RepairClinic.com, put in my model number of my humidifier, and the motor that came up was this one, and I'm about to open it. It just came today. It was ordered yesterday, so that's fast delivery. Of course, I'm here in Michigan, which is where RepairClinic.com is located, over in Canton, Michigan. The motor is behind this fan, and the fan has a set screw, so I'm going to take that off first. I have identified it's a 1/8 inch set screw, so I'm going to use that particular hex wrench, Allen wrench, to remove it. The spindle of the motor is kind of encrusted into this fan collar, so I'm going to put some WD-40 in there and wait a little bit, see if I can get it off. The housing that the fan is shrouded on, and this is there's 4 of these screws that I'm just taking out. Once the screws are out, these can be just, these little ears can be pushed in, and then this little electrical connector can be pushed out. And now the shroud is disconnected. I can lift this entire motor mount assembly off, and then you can see here's the motor. Take a video here and a picture of where the wires are connected. So there's 2 black wires that are connected to the circuit board, and then the other wires from the power are connected to the circuit board also. I'm going to mark those down. The reason I'm replacing this motor is this motor has gotten very noisy, and it was quite hot when I took it out of the case. The new one apparently is thermally protected. It actually has a fan built into the windings to keep it cooler. And there's this other gadget here that it has on the back side. It's a thermal protection device, apparently. Okay, after I get the WD-40 in there, I put a little pair of needle nose vice grips on here, and now it's pretty easy. You can just take it off like that. Situation, these nuts that are on these screws that hold the motor onto this plate are not SAE, they're metric, and this was 9 millimeters. The ground from the power cord is connected directly to the motor here, so I'm going to disconnect that. Next, rubber seal here on the motor that I'm going to take off gently, because the new motor does not have that particular seal, as you can see here. Seal has little teeth on them that go into these little slots, leaving the flat part for where these screws are, and it just presses into that. Apparently this little nut here also is metric, and I do not have a socket that's deep enough, so I'm going to use my little needle nose vice grips to get it off. Notice that the wires that come out of the motor are on the opposite side of the ground, so I'm going to mimic that when I put it back together after I clean all the housings up. Here's another thing I'm noticing. When I take the old motor and I move this up and down, you can see this moves, but the new one, there's no movement. It just spins nice and smoothly. So I don't know if it's just the way the motor was made, but my thought was that this thing had some bearings that had gone bad, why it might be so noisy. This particular older motor is assembled in Mexico, and the new one is made in China. I also noticed this slight little crack in the housing that goes around to the edge, so I'm going to put some super glue on that just to kind of shore it up a little bit. Okay, I got the new motor in. I got it plugged into the way it was and getting ready to reassemble. So this part goes back in this device. So I'm just going to put it back in. When you put the fan back on, of course, there is a square part on this spindle where this hole here will go, and the set screw screws against the flat part of the spindle. There, the fan's back on. It's nice and quiet. And it's ready to put the shroud around the fan next. Put this power unit back in. It can only go in one way because it has a little nipple here and a hole that it goes through, so you can't put it in backwards. And then you just put the screws back in like that. Make sure your wire comes out the back end. There's a slot, and you should be ready to go. It's all put back together. Of course, I had to wax all my plastic parts in the fan so that there would be less likelihood of corrosion, but that's just me. As I always say, there's clean and there's Carl clean. So this is the opening it goes in. There's my gargoyle that protects my system and makes sure it stays in good shape. And my air purifier, made in USA. And then this is the opening. Of course, clean it out. Get ready for putting your new fan back in. And then make sure the water pad is nice and clean. The new water pad, and now I'm ready to reinstall the power head of this wonderful Trane powered humidifier. There it is, reinstalled. I'm just gonna now secure the wire and turn it back on and see if it all works. It's working just fine. You just hear the water going in. You don't hear the motor anymore. So once again, this is how to put this motor back in this particular model humidifier. Thank you, RepairClinic, for sending the proper part.